So you're thinking about making a move up here to the Boise, Idaho area. Well, today I want to share with you 7 of the most common myths I hear from people who are thinking about making the move. I'm going to share with you kind of what they expected after they were here for a little bit. What was the actual truth? I want you to be prepared as possible, so stay tuned. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase Dolan, your Boise realtor, and like I said, I want you to be as prepared as possible. When you're looking at a brand new area to go and move to, you don't really know the ins and outs. You hear everything from people who have lived there and loved it. You hear everything from people who have visited or lived there and absolutely hated it. Or you might just be thinking of things that honestly everybody just assumes about a different place. Here in Idaho, we have got a ton of those things. So in this video, I want to take a little bit of time and walk you through some of those big myths that I hear all the time and see if they kind of match up to what your expectation is of moving up here. And the first common myth that I hear from everybody who's thinking about making a move up here is that Idaho and people who live around Boise, in particular, the locals, they are super unwelcoming and they just don't want any outsiders. Now, like I said, I do want to be honest and I'm not going to over sugarcoat it. There are going to be just some flat out dickheads that you're going to have to deal with when you make the move up here. There are some people who truly do blame everything that they think is wrong about where they live on other people. That's going to be a select few though. The majority of people up here are some of the most welcoming people you will find. The biggest thing that they just don't want to have happen is they don't want you to come from somewhere that you didn't like, it wasn't a good fit for you, and bring all of those same things here to a place that at the moment feels like a great fit for you. The most common gripe I get from locals here is that, oh, all those outsiders, they are ruining our city. Well, the growth is really what's changing our city. I wouldn't argue that it's being ruined, but if you're coming from somewhere else and you're coming to Boise with the intention of, hey, I am going to turn Boise straight into California, for example, you're not going to find a welcoming community here. But I also want to argue that I don't think very many people are doing that. The majority of people who are even thinking about moving up to our area want the kind of lifestyle that Boise can provide. They see everything that makes people fall in love with it, and they want to come up and embrace it. They're not looking to change it. But if you are absolutely concerned, day one, once you move up here, head over to the DMV, get rid of those California plates, any of those out-of-state plates, and just get your Idaho ones. This will help you blend in just like a local, and always remember that the majority of the people that you're going to interact with up here, odds are they were a transplant at one time or another. I'm gonna hop in here real quick and just give you that reminder that I am a local agent up here in the Boise, Idaho area. So if you're hearing anything about these myths or you wanna know what type of client actually found their good place up here, all of my information is down below. I would absolutely love to help you figure out if Boise is a good place for you or not. Let's hop right back in. Staying on that thread of not wanting to change or ruin our city, up here in Idaho, one of the common myths is that every single person is a super conservative, extreme Republican. Idaho is definitely a conservative state that really likes those conservative values. And we see this through our legislature, we see it through who gets elected here, we see it through the people that are making the move here, but we also tend to know that these are some of the loudest voices in the room. So you're gonna hear it all the time. You are gonna see those Trump flags, you're gonna see people being super patriotic, they're gonna be supporting the person that they wanna support. But if you're looking at Boise and you're like, I'm not that far right, that is okay. There are people here along all sides of the spectrum. It may not always feel that way, but I always like to point out, look at the last presidential election. It was much closer to a 50-50 split than people really want to believe. Final note on this is gonna feel very different in different parts around our valley. As you get into more of the city center, into Boise, even Meridian Eagle a little bit, you're gonna feel less of that conservative pressure, that overwhelming mindset. As you get out into some of our more outskirts towns, the rural towns that are a little bit more separated, you're still going to have much more of that classic Idaho conservative lifestyle and view on things. So for you, it's all about finding where that balance is and where you lie on that spectrum. And moving on to our next myth, kind of along the same terms, number 3, I hear all the time from people, they ask the question, is everyone up there Mormon? And the answer is no, we are not. We do have a really large LDS contingent. There's a ton of LDS history here. You're gonna find, if you are Mormon, you're gonna find a church. You're not gonna need to worry about finding one close to where you're living because they are all over the place. But when you look at the population as a whole, we have got a ton of different faiths that are represented. People find the church, they find that community. There are people all along, again, that same kind of spectrum idea when we're looking at the different faiths. So if you have one that you're looking for, odds are you're gonna find that community somewhere here in the area. Now, getting away a little bit from the population and the mindsets and the people that are up here, one of the other myths that I hear all the time is when people first reach out and they're thinking about, hey, Chase, I wanna find a home up there in Boise. We start to talk about their criteria. It happens all the time that people still have this assumption that they can just come up here to Idaho. Everybody has an acre or two. The homes are extremely spaced out. Whereas really, when you look at our setup here, pretty much in the entire Treasure Valley, we don't have a lot of that. We do still have some big acreage properties. As you get out into the outskirts, you're gonna find some of those larger lots. But I've been really surprised when I talk to people, they'll be moving from the South, the Midwest, they're coming from a home where 2-acre lots in a neighborhood just are a little bit more normal. And that just isn't the case here. For the majority of our area, when you're looking at an actual just suburban, kind of more the master plan community setup, our large lots here are gonna be anything that's around that 1/3 of an acre or above. And you'll see this in the lot premiums that the builders provide. Anything, even down to 1/4 of an acre, they're gonna put a premium on it because we just have so many more that are starting to do that kind of standard 0.15 acre lot, and those can start to feel a little bit constricting. But if you can find somewhere where you get 1/4 of an acre, 1/3 of an acre, heck, 1/2 of an acre, that is going to be pretty sweet. Now, if you absolutely need that acreage, you need a big piece of land, either just for that space, that privacy, that serenity, it's the feel that you're looking for, or maybe you have horses, you have cattle, you need that space to actually run your life, we still do have options. I just always want to prep you that when you start to look up here, if you're just looking for that traditional kind of more in-town suburban development, our lot sizes tend to surprise people. And like everything, it all comes down to budget. So if you just want a big lot, you need it for something, just be prepared that that's going to push up your home budget a little bit. Land is worth money, and especially here in our area, as we continue to expand and develop, land is gold. And once you pay a premium for the land that your property has, any of the improvements or the buildings, the home that goes on it, you're gonna have to figure out where your budget goes and what your balance is between the level of home, the size of home, the features, and the dirt underneath. If you're looking for that true acreage, there are a few towns that I want you to keep in mind. I want you to think about Marsing, kind of on the western edge, out towards Caldwell a little bit. I'm gonna tell you to take a look out towards Homedale. You're gonna wanna take a look at the different parts of Middleton, but as you start to get towards those outskirts outside of what's turning into the Boise Metro area, you're gonna have a little bit more luck. And I do wanna touch on them because they are absolutely awesome. But if you have a healthy budget in the multi-million-dollar range, there are some properties still in Eagle, kind of on the northern edge of Eagle, where you're gonna find an acre, 2-acre lots with these great estate size level homes. And they are some of the most gorgeous things that we have in our community. And you really can get the best of both worlds with the high level home and the amazing lot. And continuing on that housing discussion, the 5th myth that I want to talk about today is that when people reach out, there's still a little bit of a conception, depending on where you're coming from, that Idaho and the housing up here is dirt cheap. This is definitely going away a little bit. So you might be sitting there rolling your eyes like Idaho has not been cheap, Chase, in quite a few years, and you would be correct. Our housing has absolutely skyrocketed. It started back in kind of 2018, 2019. We had the same pandemic boom that everybody else did. And even with the small correction after that in kind of 2023, we're already seeing home prices start to trickle up, and our base values are just continuing to grow. The days where you could come up here and get a brand new construction, semi-custom level home for $200,000, $300,000, those days are gone. Now, on the low end, if you're kind of that entry-level buyer, maybe it's your first home, you're going to be wanting to look in that $300,000 to sometimes $450,000 range for that starter home. Like everything, the closer you get into the capital city of Boise, the more expensive things will be. So if you really want the most bang for your buck, you're gonna wanna look out towards Canyon County, even extend out to some of those growing areas, Homedale, Parma, Wilder. But that's kind of the range that I would say that you wanna start with to have some options and not feel like you're settling. With all of that being said, our relative affordability, and I know I talk about the relativism of what's going on here in Boise all the time, but that relative affordability is important to keep in mind because when you compare Boise and Idaho to a lot of the different areas that people are either coming from or they're comparing us with, the Seattles, Portlands, California, of course, Colorado, you're gonna see that we are still much cheaper in terms of housing than those places. Our median home price across our valley is right now around $520,000. So even though we might have missed the boat on really coming out here and just getting that dirt cheap house that is absolutely gorgeous, you're still gonna see your budget stretch a lot farther up here compared to some of those other places. Now, let's shift focus a little bit and let's talk about the winters, because everybody always assumes that the winters up here are just absolutely brutal. We are always being pelted with snow, ice, negative temperatures. It is the crazy north. And that really isn't the case up here in Boise. We do have all 4 seasons and we do have a strong winter. But our winters here, on average, you're gonna get around 20 to 21 inches of snow every single year. And those are gonna be spaced out between about 3 or 4 kind of more of the quote unquote bigger storms where you're gonna have to get out and shovel. There's gonna be quite a few of the dusting level storms where it just kind of covers the concrete, but in a few hours, it will already start to melt away. But the consistent kind of 3 feet of snow that you're gonna have to figure out how to navigate, that is not here. That is gonna be much more of the Alaska, some parts of Montana, Idaho, here in the southern end, here in the Boise area, we just don't get those extremes. So be prepared to go out and shovel, invest in a good shovel, invest in a snow blower if you want it to be extremely easy and to be a hit with the neighbors, but buy a good coat, buy some boots, and don't let it scare you off. On the temperature front, we do have a few week period, just like we do in the summers where things get super hot. In the winter, we have a few weeks where things will get really cold. The temperatures will drop down into the single digits, will hover around freezing and below for a good portion of winter, but this extreme time period is really where we feel the cold. But outside of that, again, the extremes just aren't what you're gonna experience up here. And finally, our final myth that we're gonna talk about today is that there is nothing up here to do if you don't like to be in the outdoors. I hype up the outdoor activities and the proximity and the access that you have to any of the outdoor activities that you want within half an hour to an hour, no matter where you're living up here in the area. But maybe you're somebody and you're like, those active outdoor things, that's just not my style. I like to relax. I want to do things in town. Maybe you're used to more of a city life and you want some of those amenities. And as much as I love the outdoors, we do have a lot of things to do that don't have to do with that. In town, you're gonna find that we have a really growing museum and art scene. You're gonna find the botanical gardens. There's gonna be concerts all over the place. In various spots all around town, you're gonna have good access to a ton of different restaurants, bars, coffee shops to go out and chill at. We have a ton of great breweries or tap rooms located all over our valley. And then out towards Caldwell, we actually have the Sunny Slope Wine Trail that you can go out, do some wine tasting, and truly relax. And then for something to schedule and go do, I highly recommend hitting a play or two every single summer at the Idaho Shakespeare Festival. This is a professional traveling troupe that they bring 4 to 5 different plays every single summer, everything from kind of the classic Shakespeare ones to musicals to comedies. Every single one that we've been to, we have absolutely loved. And I am not a theater person. It's an outdoor amphitheater. You can bring some of your own food, enjoy the summer weather, and just enjoy a really good production. And one of the things that Boise and the surrounding area does really, really well, and I know this is technically still in the outdoors, but it's gonna be more of the relaxing side, trust me, is our area here, all of our cities, they do a really good job with the park. So you're gonna have Discovery Park where you can go out, take your kids, they can play around, you can chill, you can have a relaxing game of pickleball. Maybe you wanna go over to Settlers Park and let the kids again run around on the splash pad. There's big open spaces for your dog to run around and you can play fetch, but again, keep it a little bit more low key. You don't have to make the plan to go up to the mountains and do a hike, fish, hunt, whatever it is. And of course, I cannot talk about anything outdoors or things to do up here in the area without mentioning the Boise River and the Greenbelt. This runs all the way from southeast Boise out to Star, and there are various different patches all around that you can kind of set up more of the beach setup. You can really relax. There's going to be Quinn's Pond that you can go down to. All of these different parks, even out in Star, they have a new Riverwalk park that they're really investing in. It'll give you that low-key, serene kind of river environment, but just a few minutes from wherever you're living. But there you have it. Those are 7 of the most common myths that I hear all the time when people are thinking about making the move up here to the area. If you have any questions at all about any of these, you want to dive a little bit more, or you just flat out disagree, all of my information is down below. I would absolutely love to help. And if you like this video, you learned something and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button down below. That way you are the first to know everything you need to know about living up here in the Boise, Idaho area. But until then, watch one of these videos that's popping up and I'll see you all on the next one.